I remember the summer before my first job as an elementary music teacher. And I remember that I had done all the stuff. So why then did that summer, after I had done all the stuff, leave me feeling more overwhelmed than ever before?
I was immediately bombarded and had so many doubts and questions. What were my first lesson plans going to be? Do I make my own full curriculum? Do I try to get one? What should I be called? What was my name going to be to my students? Do I need an earn system? How does one behavior manage? What do I need? How do I connect with my students? How do I connect to other teachers? Do I have a budget? What do I get with a budget? How do I set up my room? When is my first school performance? Should I even be worried about that right now? How does one grade? What do I wear?
But what would I wear?
I had done all the work. So surely, I was ready. Not even close. What I didn't realize was that everyone feels this way, and no one needs to feel 100% prepared. But to the new teacher now, still watching this, wanting some guidance, just know that I'll be answering one of those questions now, and we'll be trying this summer to answer as many questions as I possibly can in this new series called What to Know Before Day One, where every week I'll take you on a morning walk and we'll walk through some of the questions that I had as a beginning elementary music teacher. And I'll try to answer as many of your questions as well, so make sure you comment below. I'll also be walking you through a little bit about what my teaching style is, what my life looks like right now, and hopefully try to build a little bit of a community around this. Because one of the worst things is not only starting this new career, also feeling like you're an island in it. There's not many people who do what we do. And not everybody understands the very peculiar problems that only music educators face. Now, let's tackle one of those problems now, and it might actually be one of the most important. Of course, I'm talking about a seating chart. I know you may be thinking that a seating chart is one of the least of your worries, but I promise you, it is not.
If you're going to have your own room, then a seating chart is one of the first steps you should start thinking about for a couple reasons. One, it will help you envision what your classroom priorities are. Two, it will help see who you are as a teacher. Three, it'll help you connect with students. And four, and most importantly, will help you learn their names.
When I was in college, my teacher, Dr. Corey Ganshaw, taught me the value of a name. And she actually did this before I had even gotten to college. She had conducted an all-state choir that I had participated in high school. And out of 150 kids, she pointed me out because while we were singing, I might have also been slightly dancing. She pointed me out and said, "Everyone, I want you to do this. I want you to look like you are loving the music." After one of the concerts, she shook my hand, asked me what my name is. We chatted for probably 2 minutes, and that was that. Fast forward 3 years later to my first ever college interview, where who greeted me at the door but Dr. Corey Ganshaw. The second she saw me, she went, "Ah, Leanna, I remember you. It's so good to see you." Fast forward to our first day in music ed, where at the end of the class, Dr. Ganshaw handed us each a sheet of paper that she wanted us to write our names and one fun fact. Then she wanted each of us to take a quick picture on this little digital camera she had, and she told us that by the next class, she would know all of our names. And you better believe that that's how she greeted us. A cheery hello at the door, and all of our names. I know that she knew the power of that lesson, but I don't know if she knew how much it would impact my teaching.
This power comes with a few side effects and will help with classroom management, help you to build the relationships, foster trust with your students, and show their value.
This is your first goal as an educator. The cute classroom, the materials, the budget, the lessons all come second to showing your students that they are valued, that they matter to you, and that you know who they are. When looking at building a seating chart, look at how your room is set up. Think about the goals that you have for your classroom's culture. The goal in my classroom was to have as much space to move around as physically possible.
This is a blank version of what my seating chart looked like when I was first starting out. And as you can see, I wanted plenty of space in the middle to move. I wanted this space in the middle to help bring out instruments, get my students paired up, get my students dancing, up and moving, doing all the stuff. And I wanted the tools that I would use the most, my instruments, my books, my scarves, all that stuff to be within easy reach, while still keeping all my students angling towards the smartboard, which I knew I would be using all the time.
I didn't want any desks to clutter my space. I wanted my students' eyes to be directed right at me when it was time to talk. And I wanted the things that were a little bit more enticing to be kept far out of reach. Think of your classroom setup or some of the more traditional ones. And then think about what your priorities are. If you're not too sure about this, I will have a section in the next video where we'll go through some of those classroom priorities, as well as the tools that you'll need to get your stuff done. Now it's actually time to figure out who you have coming into your classroom. And that's the great thing about elementary school. You'll always have someone who had your student before you did. After giving myself a rough idea on how I wanted my classroom to look, I then started emailing the teachers that were on my school's website. I didn't want to interrupt their summer, obviously, but I did ask if during our prep week, which for my school was the 4 days before school actually started, if they would mind meeting with me to give me some ideas about my seating plan and a little bit about the students that would be coming into my classroom. Then we got to chatting.
It's a great time to plan to ask some questions about students who work best together and who don't, right? Who may need a little extra room to move, who you may want to keep a little closer, keep at the front with you, and if they have any yearbooks that you can borrow to start connecting their names to their faces.
Quick warning that this is not a time to bash on your students. Let the teacher you're working with know that you really only want some direction, but you want to get to know your students at your own time. There is nothing worse than setting yourself up with a bias before you've even met the student. This should just be a constructive conversation where you're setting yourself and your students up for success. Now, if you're working on a cart, like I was for some of my time at my previous school, then I would say to follow these exact same steps. Except instead of creating your own seating chart, asking the teacher for theirs. And if you're worried about how you're going to use movement in the classroom, how you're going to bring in instruments, or just teaching on a cart in general, drop a comment below and I'll try to make a video about that later on this summer. Because though I love having my room, there are ways to give your students the magical musical experiences from absolutely anywhere. And that includes a cart. Though we are 100% in a digital age, making sure that you have easy access to all of these seating charts that you're creating is so important, because the next step is to get learning. Keep the chart with you wherever you go when you start teaching. That way, as you're calling on names, you're redirecting students, or you're just learning a little bit more about them, the seating chart is right there for you to make some notes, give yourself some friendly reminders, and keep learning. Remember, this might seem basic, but there is absolutely nothing worse than trying to call on a student, grab a student's attention, or redirect them, and the only thing that you can say is, hey you! It doesn't instill the most confidence, and it won't allow you to be the leader in your classroom. That being said, this is much harder for music teachers and other special teachers who don't see just 20 to 30 kids a year and need to learn their names, but who have an entire school to learn. That's why it's so important to set yourself up for success. Make the seating charts, get the yearbooks, meet with the teachers, because no child will learn from someone who doesn't know them or who doesn't seem to care for them. And though it may feel unfair to us, with sometimes having hundreds of names to learn, the biggest way to show that you care is to first know their name. Alrighty, I think that is it for today. Now it is actually my favorite part of my morning walk. They just let me pet the horse. Honey!
Yes. How can I help you?
Do I get coffee now?
Sure.
Thank you, love. That is a good cup. Alrighty, remember to like, subscribe, and follow along, because next week is going to be all about the materials that you should have in your classroom. See you then.